This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
It's Sunday. We're ready to go. It's a busy couple of hours straight ahead. Getting set for the opening round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, which will begin on Wednesday. 6 of the 8 first-round matchups have been confirmed. One final game in the NHL regular season, a makeup date that will determine the other 2 in the Eastern Conference. Bunch of stuff to get to. Great lineup of guests that will roll off with DeFranks of the Sentinel covering the Florida Panthers. Unfortunately, Panthers aren't fighting to get into the playoffs today, but still a lot of stories to talk about with Matthew, and the Florida Panthers. Scott Billeck will join us to talk about the Winnipeg Jets, who rolled up another victory yesterday. They are sizzling hot as they get set to head into the playoffs. Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com will join us as well. We'll kind of whip around the league, talk about teams that are in, teams that are out, and what might be ahead in the offseason for some of those teams that aren't in the postseason play. George Richards covering the Columbus Blue Jackets. Jackets lost their final matchup of the season to the Nashville Predators, but they get set to play in the opening round of the Stanley Cup playoffs against the Washington Capitals. And for the final time this season, Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, the Fantasy 5, will feature help and hints for you as you get set for your Stanley Cup playoff pool. The drafts will be taking place over the next couple of days, and everyone will be looking to either expand on their winnings or perhaps make up for a regular season that didn't go exactly as planned. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. We are live every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com. Streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. A busy couple of hours ahead, as I mentioned. The NHL regular season will conclude. Florida Panthers, Boston Bruins. It's a makeup game from the January snowstorm. Wondered how much there would be to play for in this game. In this case, it is actually quite significant for the Boston Bruins because they have the opportunity to finish first in the Atlantic Division. Despite a great effort down the stretch by the Florida Panthers, they will miss the postseason. We'll talk to Matthew DeFranks more about that coming up in just a little bit. Before we go too far into our Sunday, after the difficult day that was yesterday, today will be another one, and there will be more in the future. But we'll continue to offer our love and support to the family, to the friends, to all those affected by that heartbreaking bus crash of the Humboldt Broncos, the junior hockey team that took place in Saskatchewan on Friday. The enormity of this tragedy continues to unfold. It has cast a wave of sadness throughout the hockey community and beyond. The responses, the support has been tremendous since the tragedy first became known, and the severity of the loss has increased as well as it did yesterday. The death toll rose to 15. This event has changed lives forever. It has been heartening to see the great level of support that is being offered by everyone. The stories of those who have done so much already have been encouraging. There, of course, is still such a long way to go. The accounts of those on the team who were on the bus are now being told it is a wave of heartbreak, one after another, that we are seeing and will continue to see for a few days to come. Seeing the tributes pour in yesterday, it was amazing. Every NHL team took time to recognize the awful event that took place. Moments of silence took place at games. In the Calgary Flames Vegas Golden Knights contest, they were standing together around the center ice face-off circle prior to the start of the game in a show of support and unity. It was wonderful. It was tremendous to see. The Winnipeg Jets and the Chicago Blackhawks doing the same prior to their game last night at Bell MTS Center. And each of the players on both teams also with the name Broncos on their nameplate on the back of their sweater. I don't know who thought of that idea, but good for you. That was a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. As I mentioned, there is still a long way to go. There's going to be a vigil that will be held tonight. It will be an incredibly emotional outpouring. Please know that we are all with you. It's been a really hard, really difficult couple of days. But, you know, I'll say that I can see signs of healing already, and that amazes me. It inspires me. Not just at this really difficult time following this tragic bus crash. But when things are spinning out of control on a daily basis, we seem more divided than ever. When something big happens, we come together. We help each other. And that makes me feel better. Hearing the stories of the police, the firefighters, the paramedics, the first responders, passers-by who stopped and did what they could to help. Offers of help and lodging if needed by those who live nearby in the community. Just ask. I happened upon one story yesterday that took place in an airport where there was an announcement made prior to a flight that was departing, and they were looking for people to give up their seat on that flight to help families get to the area. There's an overwhelming response. Hands shot up in the air. Offers of, yes, take my seat. That's the kind of thing that we're seeing. And perhaps the most touching image, though, is a hug, a shoulder to lean on. That unbelievable picture of the players in hospital holding hands and supporting each other. We're all here for you. We'll all do our best to help each other, to keep moving forward, and we'll do so with the game that continues to bring us together. We'll gather to watch and talk about hockey, the game that we love. It's brought us so much joy, so much drama, and it did so on what was supposed to be the final day of the NHL regular season on Saturday, and what will be the final day of the NHL regular season on Sunday. In the game yesterday between the St. Louis Blues and the Colorado Avalanche, we got what we wanted. We got a play-in game. If the Colorado Avalanche won in regulation, that was the proviso. They had to win in regulation. They were going to make it into the playoffs. It was going to be an incredible comeback from a dismal season the year before, and they were going to make it all the way back and into the playoffs for the 17-18 season. The Blues, they had battled back as well following the trade deadline. Everything seemed to shake out. They got on a bit of a roll. They had stumbled a bit down the stretch, but they had also put themselves in a position to maybe make it into the postseason when many thought that they weren't going to. And we got that kind of game yesterday. Colorado, though, had to win in regulation. If the Blues got it past the 60 minutes and got just a single point, that would be enough to get them in. The Avs had to win in regulation to make the postseason, and they did. Dominating the play in the early going. They picked up a 1-0 lead late in the first period. A great goal by defenseman Samuel Girard. Boy, did he have a game. This was the one that I think everybody was looking forward to on Saturday night. It didn't start until a little bit later in the evening on the East Coast, but it was worth the wait. It was worth the excitement that was building up and was on display in the building. One of the key players involved in the Matt Duchene trade managed to score the opening goal and give the Avs a 1-0 lead. Then they made it 2-0. And the Blues battled back, and they made it 2-1. They pulled their goaltender, trying to get even, trying to get the game past the 60 minutes, at least even it up, get into overtime. If they got a single point, that would be enough to get them into the playoffs. But when Captain Gabriel Landeskog scored the lone, it was a long empty net goal too. The celebration began. It was unbelievable to watch. The joy and excitement on those young players' faces. They piled on top of him. The bench erupted. In fact, I thought they were going to hurt him. They piled on him so much. Every player on the ice was on top of Gabriel Landeskog by the time they were finished celebrating. PA announcer Alan Roach was amazing in his goal calls. The building was getting more exciting as the game went on. It was rocking at the Pepsi Center. It was a great story. It was a nice story at a time when we needed it. One that would help boost everyone's spirits just a little bit. If you were watching, you couldn't help but get caught up in the excitement and the joy and the pleasure that those players were experiencing out on the ice. The Avs go from worst in the league last season and into the playoffs this year. What a great turnaround. What an exciting season. Gathering momentum as the year went along. It was terrific to watch. It was fun. It was exciting. For St. Louis, though, it was a tough game. They got steamrolled by the Avs. Blues played the night before. They had to travel from Chicago to get to Denver. Sure, they did send their goaltender ahead. I don't know that you want to blame Jake Allen. Thought he did okay. But the Blues just did not seem to have that same energy, that same enthusiasm, that same determination, that same will to win that the Colorado Avalanche did. For their efforts, the Colorado Avalanche get themselves a date with the Nashville Predators in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the team with the best record in the NHL. Doesn't matter, though. We got what we wanted. We got it. We got the storybook turnaround of one season to another. They give back to the fans for their loyal support that they offered when things weren't so good and weren't very good in the last year or two. Nice for them. It was nice. It was a good story. It was fun. It was exciting. You couldn't help but get caught up in the fun and the enthusiasm of it. As I mentioned, though, some of the drama about which teams were going to get into the playoffs was left during the day because of the afternoon game between the Philadelphia Flyers and the New York Rangers. I expected more from the Rangers. Only managed 8 shots through the first half of the game. Late in the second, they were down 3-0, and they seemed to lose the balance of any interest that they had in the game. Also of note in this game, the TV coverage. The great moment in the opening of the game when they paid tribute to the Humboldt Broncos. Moment of silence. God bless America. It was a great beginning. And I guess the New York Rangers management expected more from the Rangers and their coaching staff because it was last night that Alain Vigneault was relieved of his duties as head coach of the New York Rangers. We'll wait and see what the status of the assistant coaches on the staff is going forward. I'm not sure that they'll be back either. I think you got to wipe the slate clean. It's going to be an interesting time, and I don't think this is the end of the changes as well. I think there's going to be other changes that take place, not just with the New York Rangers, but with the coaching staff on other teams. Are we going to have the Black Monday kind of scenario that I talked about over the last number of weeks or so? I don't know if it'll all take place at once. It may get strung out over a few days. I think there's going to be some changes, though, on a number of head coaching fronts, especially now that Alain Vigneault is available, because if he wants to get back to work, there will be people who are interested in having him coach their team. The other decision, or one of the other decisions we were waiting for, also did come yesterday. Ken Holland has signed a 2-year contract extension with the Detroit Red Wings. I think that means Jeff Blashill comes back as the head coach as well. We'll wait and see. More on the Rangers, the Flyers, the games from yesterday, the playoff matchups. 6 of the 8 are set. A little bit of talk about awards, a little bit of talk about preseason predictions, and whatever else we can squeeze in the next couple of hours as well. A lot of stories to talk about, lots from games last night, and much more at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Matthew DeFranks coming up shortly. We'll talk Florida Panthers. Scott Billeck this hour as well. Winnipeg Jets. I consider them one of the favorites to come out of the Western Conference. Scott will give us the latest, that and much more all straight ahead. Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with much more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live in the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. You can download it now at the App Store. Lots to get into on this, what has become the final day of the NHL regular season because of the makeup game between the Boston Bruins hosting the Florida Panthers a little bit later on this evening. A couple of days off, and then we get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. They were hoping to be playing for a spot in the postseason. It didn't work out that way because of the result earlier in the day between the Rangers and the Philadelphia Flyers, but the Florida Panthers will be on the outside this season. Matthew DeFranks covers the Panthers for the Sun Sentinel. You can follow him on Twitter at @MDeFranks. And he joins us on the line now. It's still got to be a tough thing for the Florida Panthers to be processing, I suspect, today and over the next few days, that they came up just a little bit short, Matthew, in their bid. They had a great run down the stretch, had a tremendous home record in the second half of the season, especially, but to come up a little bit short has got to hurt that team.
Yeah, last night after they beat Buffalo, the mood in the dressing room was kind of weird. Right, because it wasn't your typical celebration mood after a victory, right? You didn't have all of the happiness you have typically, and the players were disappointed. Talking to Vincent Trocheck last night, that was pretty much his first word. It was, "Hey, we're disappointed. There are good things to take out of this season. They went on a tear after the All-Star break, like you said, but." Ultimately they wanted to make the playoffs and they didn't make the playoffs. So it was kind of a weird mood, and I'm sure they're still processing it a little bit. I think this is a lot tougher to handle given how well they did play after the All-Star break. I think when you look at the standings at the All-Star break, they were 12 points back. It was kind of a foregone conclusion that they would miss the playoffs at that point. And, I think if you're that far back in the standings, you can kind of ease yourself into thinking that you'll miss the playoffs. It's not a sudden jolt that you're going to miss it. But given their tear down the stretch, they were really in the mix. And I think the closest they got was 1 point out with 3 games in hand. And at that point, you think you're going to make it. But they had a 3-game losing streak here down the stretch. The first half caught up to them, and of course. Jersey, Philly, and Columbus all finished the season very strong, and 98 points gets you into, or 97 gets you into the playoffs. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, the other thing that I think they'll understand once they do process through this and realize that the Florida Panthers came an awfully long way this season. If you want to rewind and go all the way back to last summer, all the turmoil that took place a year ago, it's got straightened out and sorted out. But then there were all the other external factors that had to take place as well. The state was still dealing with Irma at the start of training camp, and the season began. Plus, you had to get used to an entirely new coaching staff and a new system and structure. Plus, of course, the Parkland shooting that took place in February. That is a lot of outside influences to deal with as a team. And to have such a successful season, I think gives them a lot of momentum and something to build on moving forward.
Yeah, I think you look at the total state of the franchise, and if I'm thinking this correctly, next year will be the first year that they've had the same coach and GM since 15-16. And so it's when you have that much turnover, it can be tough. The Tom Rowe era had its pluses and had its minuses. Obviously, he brought in Jonathan Marchessault and Colton Sevier and Keith Yandel, and we've seen what those guys have been able to do in the NHL given an opportunity. But they also signed Riley Smith to a 5-year contract that may or may not turn out to be his actual worth. They had a deal with Jason Demers, so they were good and bad with that Tom Rowe 1-year stint with the Panthers. But you look at the coaching staff now, and the players talked about this during these last 2 months, that in the first part of the season they weren't really adjusted to his systems. And that sounds kind of cliche, and it sounds kind of like a cop-out, but this was a team that didn't really have a whole lot of structure last year with Tom Rowe as the interim coach. So it's somewhat believable that it would take some time for them to develop into a structured identity. And Bob Budner wants to play a north-south, up-tempo, up-down game that San Jose has been playing. And that's something that the Panthers weren't really accustomed to with playing inside of a system. So I kind of understand the slow start, but next year there's going to be no excuses for a slow start, given that the coaching staff and the GM will presumably still be in place for the Panthers and have some stability.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, we talk about it taking time for line combinations to develop and gel and get some chemistry. Well, when you don't have a whole team playing on the same structured system, it's inevitable that that's going to take a little time for it to come together as well. I'm also curious as to how different the roster may look next season once the year gets underway. Dale Talon has said that he's thinking that they want to and need to infuse more young players, more talented young players into their lineup, as opposed to, well, maybe if we get a veteran here and there, we can get ourselves a little bit better. He's thinking we want to get a lot better, and the way to do that is through young players.
Yeah, I think there's a glimpse of that we saw this year. The first month of the season, Owen Tippett was with the team and he played 7 games. He could be a contributor again next year, but perhaps for longer than that little tryout. At the end of this year, we saw a little bit of Henrik Borgstrom. He played 3 games, and I would expect him to play again today against Boston. And so he is kind of their third center of the future, I guess, behind Alex Barkov and Vincent Trocheck. So those 2 guys can kind of come in next year and infuse some youth. But it's also the question of how much are you going to rely on, a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old to come in and change the fortunes of your franchise. Obviously some players are able to do that, but it's a lot to ask of young guys. And, that is kind of one of the questions up in the air. I think you can look at Colorado, what they did this year. I remember talking to Nathan McKinnon at the All-Star break, and it was part of their turnaround was that they became a lot younger as a team. And of course, it helps when you have a superstar center like Nathan McKinnon, but the surrounding cast was also a lot younger than they were a year before. And you look at the Panthers right now, and you have Alexander Barkov, who is obviously an elite player. You have Vincent Trocheck, who is a very good center, and you can surround them with other young guys. So looking at what comes off this year in terms of going forward, Radim Vrbata, he's going to retire. He's 36 years old. He didn't really pan out to what the Panthers thought he would be this year. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of the other free agents. They don't really have a ton of them. Connor Brickley, he was a healthy scratch for most second half of the season. He's a free agent. There's a few RFAs they have with Jared McCann, Frank Petrano, Alexander Petrovich, those type of guys. But all of their big star players are locked down long term. So it'll be interesting to see what they do on the fringes because I think they really need to improve that bottom 6 to have some scoring depth in the lineup to really take that next step.
Matthew DeFranks is with us, covers the Florida Panthers for the Sun Sentinel. At MDeFranks is how you follow him on Twitter. Panthers eliminated from postseason play yesterday. They have one more game, a makeup game against the Boston Bruins on Sunday evening. That's going to be difficult to get yourself motivated for that. I think the other question with the Florida Panthers, maybe not so much next year, but certainly in the years after that, is how their goaltending situation is going to shake out. Roberto Luongo, he gave all he could, but he's suffered through some injuries. James Reimer, same thing, has given as much as he can, but also had some injuries. Maybe they don't have to address it next year, but that is a question that's looming for the Panthers.
Yeah, I absolutely think you're right. It's an interesting situation because when Roberto Luongo has been healthy this year, he has been incredible. I think he's at a 928, 929 save percentage this season across 35 or so games. So when he's on the ice, he's been great. He's been a number one starter for them. But that's the issue, is that he's only played 35 games, and last year he only played 40. So it's become a question of how much can you truly count on from Roberto Luongo in terms of how many games he'll play. With James Reimer, he's being paid like a starting goaltender, and he has 3 more years on his contract. So it'll be kind of tough. You're kind of handcuffed with what you can do, not only with Reimer's contract for 3 more years, but Luongo is for 4 more years, especially with how he's playing and hit the age that he's at. So there's probably going to have to be some sort of move made in the upcoming years, depending on when Roberto Luongo decides to retire. But you look at the pipeline, and they believe that Samuel Montembeault is that goalie of the future. But I think he's only 21 years old right now. They want to get him some more professional experience. He spent the entire season in the AHL, outside of a brief call up to back up in the NHL this season. They kind of peg him as that next guy. But there might have to be some sort of bridge between Luongo and Montembeault, and whether that's Reimer or not, we'll see. But the goaltending situation is definitely something to keep an eye on.
The other question, just before I let you go, Matthew, is that last night on the final home game of the regular season, the crowd was pretty decent in Florida. With some of the success that they had in the second half, the first half in Sunrise is always difficult, but is there something to build on in terms of generating better, more consistent crowds inside the building?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to winning, right? So especially in this market down here in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, the South Florida area, if you don't win consistently, you're not going to draw. I think we saw that with the Miami Heat, with the Big Three era, when LeBron James and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade were down here, and they were selling out every night. But when they were a 15-win team, it was not the best crowds in the world. And you see that with the Dolphins and also the University of Miami football. So it's been that way in this area for a while, that you need to win consistently to draw fans. And I don't think it's a matter of interest down here. I think it's a matter of winning. And if the Panthers can play next season, a full season like they did in the second half, obviously I think they'll get some fans in the building and kind of pump up those attendance numbers. But I think that's what it all comes down to, is winning down here.
Matthew DeFranks of the Sun Sentinel, covering the Florida Panthers. Adam DeFranks is how you follow him on Twitter. Matthew, thank you for the time today. Always appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you. Matthew DeFranks covering the Florida Panthers. If the Panthers can play a full season the way they did the second half, especially the sensational home record that they had in the second half of the season, that goes a long way to getting your fans in the building, because not only are they winning, but they're playing exciting hockey, aggressive, forechecking, creating opportunities, scoring hockey. That creates excitement in the building. And you got to hope that that's what we can see more of. Alexander Barkov, sensational player. Huberdeau, terrific. Vincent Trocheck getting more recognition now. What a great move getting Evgeny Dadonov to come back to play with the Florida Panthers as well. A little more young talent like that. Good steps could be taken by the Florida Panthers as well. Consistency in the front office and on the coaching staff. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. We'll shift over and talk about a team that is on their way into the postseason with very high aspirations, and understandably so. Scott Billeck, covering the Winnipeg Jets for the Winnipeg Sun and NHL.com, will join us in the next segment. Pete Blackburn also coming up. We'll talk all things NHL and postseason. George Richards with the latest on the Columbus Blue Jackets and their first-round matchup against the Caps. And Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, final one for the year. Help you with your Fantasy 5 and help in the playoff pools that will be starting shortly. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis Sunday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday live at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, streaming at hockeyunfiltered.com, live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. Lots to get into on what has become the final day of the NHL regular season because of the one postponed game between the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. Pete Blackburn coming up to talk all things NHL. George Richards, the latest on the Columbus Blue Jackets. And Stephen Laidlaw, managing editor of DobberHockey.com with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, as we get set for NHL playoff pools, which will be happening over the next couple of days to start with the NHL postseason in the middle of the week. Happy to welcome back to the program the man who covers the Winnipeg Jets for the Winnipeg Sun, NHL.com, one of the teams expected to go very deep into the NHL postseason. Follow him on Twitter at Scott Billeck, and Scott joins us now. Hey, Scott, just before we dive too far into the Jets and the playoffs and the postseason, I don't know if you can express the way it felt inside the Bell MTS Center last night when both the Jets and the Hawks, wearing Broncos on their nameplate, surrounded at center ice for that pregame ceremony. That was wonderful and touching to watch. I can't imagine how emotional it must have been inside the building.
Yeah, it was quite emotional. You know, that kind of stuff hits home anywhere in Canada, even in big cities like Winnipeg, because everybody takes a bus to hockey games or drives out into the country to go out to play a hockey game. You know, I think hockey's such a fabric of this culture here in Canada that when something like this happens, and I mean, this is the biggest accident and the biggest loss of life in a hockey crash in Canada, in Canadian history. And it hits everybody because, you know, everybody plays hockey here or skates or something. So, you know, when last night, when, you know, and I don't think anybody knew what was going to happen last night before, you know, we in the media didn't know, and none of the fans knew. And then when the players were kind of, you know, side by side with each other around circle, and it was very emotional. And you know, you could hear a pin drop in Bell MTS Place, and there was just this respect that people had, and you know, people were grieving. And it was a very somber day around the place. The Blackhawks didn't skate in the morning, but Joe Quenneville talked about it before the game. You know, Jets players, a couple of them, Adam Lowry, Josh Morrissey, both of those guys played in Saskatchewan and WHL. They took buses all across, you know, Western Canada into the northwestern U.S. And you know, Adam Lowry was, you know, visibly shaken by it. And I think there was just a very somber feel. And you know, once they had that, I think people were able to just kind of grieve and just, you know, take it all in and just kind of feel for the families. And I think you kind of saw that throughout the night with the 50-50 as high as it got. And yeah, the jerseys were all, you know, obviously a very nice touch by the Jets and the Blackhawks to do that as well.
Yeah, just a wonderful showing of support for the hockey, from the hockey community, for the hockey community. All right, let's shift and talk about the Jets, who will undoubtedly have a day off today and then get back to work on Monday and Tuesday as they wait to see what the schedule is going to be for their first round matchup against the Minnesota Wild. I think the Jets line up really well against this team. I think with the defensive troubles that Minnesota has with injuries, Winnipeg, honestly, I think this could be a fairly quick series for Winnipeg and Minnesota. I'm sure that they won't say that, but I will.
Yeah, the Jets aren't going to say that. You know, the Wild, of course, are not going to say that. You know, it's an interesting thing because, you know, it's not like the Jets have like an interprovincial rival or anything like that. So it's kind of turned into the Minnesota Wild against the Winnipeg Jets. And sometimes when you have these rivalries, it doesn't matter which team is better and which team isn't as good. You know, it comes down to, you know, a lot of it comes down to kind of heart and just wanting it more. You know, as cliche as that sounds, when it comes to rivalries, everybody steps up their game, and they're pretty good. For the Jets, for sure, have them. I mean, it's kind of a battle of two goalies who are trained by the same goalie coach in the off season, and a battle of you know, one of the best offenses in the NHL against, you know, one of the better defensive teams, even though they don't have Ryan Suter. They got Jared Spurgeon back, so there's a lot of, you know, it's weird. There's a few X factors for this this series when it comes to, you know, what's going to happen. But yeah, like you said, kind of on paper, it looks like the Jets could kind of win this one quickly. It looks like they're good enough to do so. But the Jets don't have the experience as much on their side. I know the Wild definitely do. And you know, they've been in these first round matchups, tough matchups over the years. So it's a very interesting series with a lot of storylines coming out of it between both sides.
It's interesting as well from the Winnipeg perspective because there was disappointment and heartbreak last year when a lot was expected and there was a season of frustration that didn't happen. But this season, after the first couple of games of the regular season, everything just kind of got pointed in the right direction for the Winnipeg Jets. You know, Steve Mason got hurt, but that didn't matter because Connor Hellebuck had found himself and had himself a great season. They had great offense. They were scoring a lot of goals. And then at the trade deadline, they were reinforced with the addition of Paul Stastny, and just everything seems to line up. So how high are the expectations for both the city of Winnipeg Jets fans and with the Jets themselves?
Yeah, I mean, when you listen to the chants of "We want the cup" at Bell MTS Place, I think it kind of gives you an idea of what exactly fans are, you know, thinking here, and whether or not, you know, expectations should be tempered. You know, the Jets have what it takes to go on a deep run, like you said earlier there, and they have a good team. The ability to score, the ability to come back in hockey games, the ability to not let hockey games get away from them when the other team scores. You know, they have goaltending. Connor Hellebuck, he won his 44th game last night. It broken a record for American-born goalies. I mean, he's had just an incredible comeback kind of year. for the second year goalie there. And yeah, I think I think that the biggest thing, the talk in this town, is what happens if the Nashville Predators win their first round matchup, which you think is likely, and then the Jets win their first round matchup, which you'd also think is likely. And what happens then? Because there's a lot of talk that the winner of that series kind of has the advantage of a good third round matchup, whoever they face, and could go all the way into the Cup. So it's a very interesting thing, and I do agree that the Jets can go a long way. I think it's going to be interesting to see exactly how far they can go and what that second round looks like between two teams that also match up really well against each other.
If Nashville wins and Winnipeg wins, we get a hell of a second round, is what happens, and I'd be okay with that. I'm not sure if as long as Winnipeg came out on the winning end, I guess they'd be okay with it too. But that's the difficulty with the playoffs, and you're always going to have a tough matchup and an unusual set of circumstances. Sometimes it falls curiously, and if you're going to win the Stanley Cup and you're going to go deep, you're going to have to beat good teams. So do you want to do it in the second round when you're perhaps healthier and feeling better than you are in the conference final? Maybe that's the way to look at it.
Yeah, and I think once you get to that second round, I mean, if it is Nashville and Winnipeg, those two teams are going to beat up each other. We've already seen it in the regular season. I mean, the games were high scoring between the two. I wouldn't expect that as much, but they were physical. And, both teams, they kind of, you kind of had this sense that they knew they might get there with each other and wanted to kind of test each other's mettle, and that's exactly what happened in those games. And like you said, I think it is the most enthralling matchup that they could have in the playoffs this year. I think just between 1 and 2 in the Central Division, two teams with the top two teams of a few that have the most points in the NHL, and teams that just had a very good season series against each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott Billeck is with us, covers the Winnipeg Jets for the Sun, for NHL.com. At Scott Billeck is how you follow him on Twitter. It's going to be the Jets and the Minnesota Wild in the opening round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. They'll start either Wednesday or Thursday. Last I heard is that the leaning is that they are probably going to open up on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But as you look at the Winnipeg Jets, and the opposition will do this, whoever it is there a weakness on this team that you see? Because that's what your opponent seeks out is your weakness. But they're strong defensively. They have lots of scoring. Their goaltending has been sensational. Their defense has been good. I don't pick up on a weakness. Is there something that you notice from watching them every day?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, like you said, there isn't a lot of weaknesses, but there are some times where the Jets can start slow. They will pick it up again in the second and third periods, but in a tighter playoff series type games, a bad start can kind of be a bit of a kind of death blow to a team, and so I think the Jets have to worry about just their starts, and I think they need to kind of just worry about some of the giveaways that happen in the course of the game. They are now going to be playing teams that are very good. And they even said over the last few games of the regular season where they just haven't played exactly how they want to. Some of those details that Paul Maurice talked on, wanting to keep the details kind of intact through the rest of the regular season when the games didn't mean anything. And the Jets didn't do a super good job of that over the last couple weeks of the season. And so I think the Jets just need to. The biggest weakness is going to be how do they start in games and just how their mentality is going into this postseason. Connor Hellebuck declared last night that he's ready. He feels the team's ready. I think the Jets need to just make sure that they are ready for this. And with a lack of experience on the team, I think it's just very important that some of the guys that were there 3 years ago kind of just settle that room down, because there's going to be a lot of excitement. And I think there's just that little bit of an unknown of how the Jets are going to react on this stage coming. They have all the pieces. We've talked about that. Everything's there for them to go on a deep run. I think a lot of it's just going to come down to mentally how they play, and a lot of it will be how they start games in the playoffs.
That's a great point about being mentally prepared at the start of the game and understanding that it's a process to now win 4 games before your opponent does. It's not just a different opponent on every night, because that is a different mental approach, and that's where they're going to rely on the experience, like a Blake Wheeler or Dustin Byfuglien, who's been through those types of battles before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the Jets have had success coming back from being, you're 1 or 2 goals down, and that's just not always the case of how it goes in the playoffs. And the Minnesota Wild know. I mean, they've been there. They know exactly what this is like. They have a lot of playoff experience. There was a stat yesterday, and I didn't catch the exact numbers, but it was roughly a 7-3 ratio on how many games, playoff games, the Wild had played to the Jets. It was somewhere around 1,000 to nearly 300 for the Jets. That's a lot of experience and a lot of things that you can glean from the losing that Minnesota's done and the winning that they've done in the playoffs and that sort of thing. So yeah, the Jets need to know that things are tougher and comebacks aren't going to be as easy, and scoring is at a premium, as it always is in the NHL, but even more so in the playoffs, and that protecting leads are huge, and just all those different things where you just can't take for granted all the skill that this team has as much as maybe you could during the regular season.
A couple of quick things just before I let you go, because I think Matthew Barzal is pretty much a lock to win Rookie of the Year. Let's take a second, though, and recognize the great season that Kyle Connor has had as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. Now up to 31 goals. What a great find that is for the Winnipeg Jets to have him come into their lineup, and one of the reasons they're predicted to go deep this season.
Well, yeah, and he probably worked himself into that, maybe the 3rd or even the 2nd spot in Calder voting just with this season. And if you look at what Brock Besser's been able to do in Vancouver, of course that's a thing on his own. But I mean, Kyle Connor is able to play more games. And he was playing on an elite line, and sometimes you'll think, well, you play on an elite line, you should be getting the points. But Kyle Connor had to come in, didn't make the team out of training camp. Had to come in, earn his spot on the roster, and then had to learn how to play with Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler in quick succession, and has done that. That's not an easy task for a first-year player to come in and be able to skate with 2 elite players on the line and be able to keep up, and then to be able to also contribute. And Connor's been able to do that. And I think that deserves recognition. Obviously, Barzal's had a tremendous year. I mean, you can't take anything away from him. But I think you have to look at what Connor's done, goal scoring wise, and just the context of how he got there this year, and the disappointment at the end of the season, and for him to be able to focus and turn that into a 31 goal season, lead all rookies in goal scoring. It's a tremendous accomplishment, whether or not he finishes wherever in the Calder race. I just think he deserves some recognition for what he's done.
I agree, and that's why I wanted to mention him. He's had an absolutely sensational season. I don't know if you have an answer for this. It's just a yes or no, but a lot of players with the playoffs start the beards. Does this maybe, for those of us that get creeped out by it, offer hope that Patrick Laine will get rid of his?
No, I think he's until the last game is played, and so that gnarly beard that he wears that has only gotten gnarlier over the course of the season is here to stay until the final day, whenever that is for the Jets, whether they host the cup or go out at some point during the rest of the season. I think a lot of people will be excited, but if you look around the Winnipeg, the arena here in Winnipeg, people are already buying these beards. They're kind of selling these little blonde kind of beards that you can put on yourself now, and it looks horrible. And but I think it's one of the things that people have just kind of taken to. It's kind of now a part of a Winnipeg folklore here. So
yeah, it's so bad that it's trendy. Scott Billeck from the Winnipeg Sun and NHL.com. At Scott Billeck is how you follow him on Twitter. Great stuff as always today, Scott. We appreciate it. We'll be talking again soon, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Todd. Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, Scott Billeck covering the Winnipeg Jets. Hey, Winnipeg Jets fans will be okay with it. They're embracing it, as you said. But that beard, it just kind of creeps me out. Gnarly was the word that Scott used, and I think that's a real complimentary term to how bad that thing looks. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Lots more to get to on the Sunday edition. Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com will join us. George Richards coming up as well with the latest on the Blue Jackets. Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy 5, Fantasy 5 playoff pool ready. A little bit later on in the program. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition. Join us every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, live at hockeyunfiltered.com. We stream live on the Hockey Unfiltered app. It's all powered by Primetime Radio. Also live on Facebook, on Periscope, YouTube Live. Our podcasts, you can subscribe through iTunes and iHeartRadio. They are also available on our website and the Hockey Unfiltered app. That, of course, includes our midweek podcast that we like to have a little bit of weekend in the middle of the week, and have dubbed it the Little Saturday Podcast. They drop on Wednesday afternoon because there's always hockey stories going on, so we like to keep the conversation going, and we have these all through our season. They drop Wednesday afternoon and just kind of carry us through the week. Busy second hour coming up with Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com joining us, George Richards, who covers the Columbus Blue Jackets for the Post-Dispatch, also here, and Stephen Laidlaw with the final Fantasy 5 of the NHL season. Get you set for your playoff hockey pools. Everybody knows the top names. There's a few deeper names that you want to be keeping an eye on as well. 6 of the 8 matchups have been determined. The final 2 in the East will be determined today when the last game of the NHL regular season takes place. Boston Bruins, Florida Panthers. It was hoped that the Florida Panthers would be playing for the opportunity to compete in the NHL postseason. That went away yesterday because the Philadelphia Flyers defeated the New York Rangers and came up with a big victory. It was, it was not much of an effort by the New York Rangers. I really thought there would be more. They seemed to lose interest as the game went on. They were down 3-0 and they just kind of faded away. Finally, it was a 5-0 game between the Philadelphia Flyers. Great effort by Claude Giroux to come up with 3 goals, help lead his team to victory. If you were with us yesterday, you heard we were talking with Dave Isaac, who covers the Flyers, and I said, does he need to have a big game? Does he need to maybe get to 100 points to get his name into the MVP conversation? He was in it, but he certainly helped make his case yesterday, dragging his team to victory. Well, not a lot of dragging, but helping lead his team to victory over the New York Rangers. I thought that Philly would be able to get a point. They did. I thought the Rangers would put up more of a fight. I was interested in watching this game to see how it would be covered because of all that had gone on in the hockey world with the tragic bus accident in Saskatchewan involving the Humboldt Broncos. I was a little conflicted by the TV coverage that I saw, quite frankly. It kind of went the full spectrum for me as I was watching it, with Mike Emmerich, who sounded as if he was moved to tears at the opening of the game when trying to lead into the game, following that emotional moment of silence and the God Bless America pregame. It was captured beautifully, the moment, as a matter of fact. I'm a little conflicted about Pierre Maguire asking both Philadelphia Flyer head coach Dave Haxtell and Rangers assistant Lindy Ruff about the tragedy during the game in their on-the-bench interviews in the middle of the first and second period. Both men have ties to Western Canada, but I didn't think that was really the time for asking that type of question. Not unless you talked to them before and maybe got the okay from them, but even still, I think it sounded awkward and really difficult and uncomfortable. It was a little uncomfortable to watch and listen to, and I can't imagine how difficult and uncomfortable it was for both coaches as they're trying to focus on a game that's taking the place. And the other part of the coverage, I'll sum up in this way. Mike Milbury is an asshat. I know that's not breaking news, but I figure it's worth mentioning again. From his decades out of touch analysis, it's unbelievable that he has allowed a forum to spew this on a regular basis. And there'll be more of it during the postseason. Yes, this was the one that referred to Daniel and Henrik as Thelma and Louise because they weren't tough enough during the Stanley Cup final. Suggesting that if you refused to fight years ago, it was considered unmanly. When a high stick clipped a Flyers player, if there's any time you want to bleed, it's now. Asking Pierre Maguire whether you think it might be time to get Henrik Lundqvist out of the net as the score is going up. Aren't you supposed to be the analyst that maybe provides some of the answers? Well, you know what? From what I've heard, maybe you shouldn't be there providing some of the answers because all I hear is stuff that should have maybe been coming out of people's mouths in 1978, not 2018. You are an embarrassment. Yet, there are those that think he's great, and unfortunately, some of those involved are involved with the NBC coverage and making the decisions as to who staffs the telecast. I find it really difficult to watch. The sooner people like Mike Milbury are no longer part of broadcast coverage in the National Hockey League, it will be a giant step forward for the league and popularity of the game. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email. Hour number 2 of the Sunday program coming up after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you missed the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with SeatGiant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Hour number 2 set to go. I'm glad I got that off my chest. I feel better now. Good hour straight ahead with lots to get into. Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com will join us. We'll kind of whip around the NHL. We'll just talk about some of the playoff matches, some other top stories on the league. Stuff that everybody's interested in. George Richards covering the Columbus Blue Jackets for the Post-Dispatch will be here. We'll talk about the Jackets, their first round matchup of the NHL postseason. Caps. It's an interesting one. And Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, final one of the season. Just a little help to get you set for the Stanley Cup playoffs, which will begin rolling out on Wednesday, and then it's 2 months of fun after that. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Todd at HockeyUnfiltered.com is the email. We're live every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at HockeyUnfiltered.com. Streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. Oh yeah, it is a good time in the NHL. I guess not for half the teams that aren't making the postseason, but it's exciting when you're a couple of days out from the Stanley Cup playoffs. You have 2 days to discuss and debate what you like about matchups, what you think some teams will be successful, other teams might fade away. And that's part of the fun and leading up to the best time of the year, and we're looking forward to it. Lots to get into. And we had a lot of excitement on what was supposed to be the final day of the regular season yesterday. I was hoping for a little bit more, but unfortunately, the Flyers, they managed to eliminate the Florida Panthers even before they took the ice. They had a victory over the New York Rangers. The Florida Panthers taking on the Boston Bruins on Sunday. One makeup game that was rescheduled from January. It was the only day they could do it, which was unfortunate. But the Boston Bruins have stuff to play for. They can finish top of their division and pass the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that's something to play for, because I would rather be playing. I know this is bulletin board material according to some, but if you're the Boston Bruins, you want to play the Toronto Maple Leafs? Want to play the New Jersey Devils? I'd rather play the New Jersey Devils. That would be my choice. If I'm picking my opponent, yes, I want to play the New Jersey Devils. I don't think their talent level is as deep. Taylor Hall is an absolute beast and should be in the Hall of Fame, or excuse me, the Hart Trophy discussion for this season. And we'll get into a little bit of that as well in a few seconds. But the talent pool is deeper in Toronto, and they got a goaltender who can steal you a game or two if necessary. And I think I would rather have New Jersey as my first round opponent. The Tampa Bay Lightning will play the other. If Boston plays New Jersey, then Tampa will play Toronto. And that's an interesting matchup. That will captivate a lot of people's attention. Because there'll probably be some that try to spin it as Steven Stamkos spurred Toronto and stayed with the Lightning. Oh, yeah. That will just be the beginning of the drama. But it was great on Saturday because we had the play-in game between the St. Louis Blues, Colorado Avalanche. What a job by the Colorado Avalanche. Dominating play in the early going. Sam Girard scoring a goal late in the first period. And the Avalanche had the lead. They would never relinquish. Oh, we had a little video review controversy when it looked like the puck might have come outside the blue line on one of the goals, putting the play offside before the puck went in the net. You know what? I looked at it at a bunch of different angles, and it's 50-50. Calling the ice stands. It will have more of this during the postseason, though. Just wait for it. It'll be interesting. It's going to be fun, but good for Colorado. It's a nice story to have them come all the way back from dead last in the National Hockey League to be in the postseason next year. Gets them a date with the Nashville Predators. I think it's probably a short series. Nashville's just a way better team, but it doesn't diminish what the Colorado Avalanche were able to accomplish. I think it's really, really something that they were able to do that yesterday. After the loss by the New York Rangers, where they didn't really put up a lot of a fight, Coach Alain Vigneault was dismissed. I think it's going to be the first of a few. Ken Holland was retained by the Detroit Red Wings. He will be back to continue the rebuild. I guess I'm okay with it. There have been a lot of people, I think, frustrated that the string of playoff appearances ended by the Detroit Red Wings now 2 seasons ago, and a lot of people are blaming Ken Holland for that. I think that maybe his emphasis should have been refocused a little sooner, but now it is. Look, the guy can find talent. He can draft players. He's done it. Someone with that kind of knowledge and experience, I'm willing to give him a chance to let him play it out for a couple of years. Much like the Chicago Blackhawks did with both Joel Quenneville and Stan Bowman. Those guys are retained. They know what they're doing. Yes, they got caught up in a couple of choices and decisions that didn't work out. Give them a chance to fix it. Don't just, we got to get rid of these guys. They don't know what they're doing anymore. That's a harsh, arbitrary decision. And I think getting away from that is a positive. Winnipeg and Minnesota, we talked about that matchup in the last hour. Scott Billeck was with us. I like Winnipeg in this series, and I like Winnipeg with the opportunity to go pretty good distance in the postseason. If they wind up facing Nashville in the second round, yeah, that could be tough. Deal with the first round first. In the East, Caps, Blue Jackets. Oh, it's an intriguing one. I know there are some that were thinking, oh, I want Pittsburgh, and others thinking we don't want any part of Pittsburgh. Well, at some point you might get them, but not in the first round. Pittsburgh is going to take on the Philadelphia Flyers. And this should be the usual assortment of we hate each other. That's how the promotions will go. There will be all kinds of video evidence of the Philadelphia Flyers punching each other in the head and fighting and all that kind of drama. Once you get past that periphery stuff, if Matt Murray stays healthy, I think the Penguins win this series without too much difficulty. They've got more talent. The Flyers are doing all the right things. They're drafting and developing their young players. But if Matt Murray stays healthy, they've got better goaltending. And that will be a difference with Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Out west, man, oh man, a bunch of shuffling took place. Man, the Anaheim Ducks, everybody was worried about Anaheim. If they get in, they could be difficult. Well, they're in. And they kept winning down the stretch, making it 5 in a row. Their victory on the final day of the regular season over the Arizona Coyotes, coupled with a Sharks loss to the Minnesota Wild, pushes the Ducks up into second place in the Pacific. They got home ice advantage for that first round series. I was kind of hoping for Sharks and Kings, what with a little bit of history between the two teams, but I think Anaheim and San Jose will be a good series too. You know, think about it. LA, they were down 3-0, came back against San Jose. That makes a good storyline going into an LA San Jose series. It's not going to happen. At least not this round. But if Anaheim gets in, they could be the team to worry about. Well, they're in. Are they as much a team to worry about now, though, with Cam Fowler out for a number of weeks? John Gibson has been absent again because of injury. Health is going to be important. And it's because Anaheim and San Jose are facing off against one another. It means LA gets a date with the Vegas Golden Knights. Everybody's nice story for the season. Round one, I'm leaning towards the Kings. Call it an upset if you want. I like LA over Vegas. I think the clock has to strike midnight at some point for the Vegas Golden Knights. Their schedule got tougher in the last couple of months of the season. They weren't quite the dominating force that we saw early on in the year. Everybody kind of clued into Vegas. That could be a nice rivalry that shapes up, though, after this playoff series. LA and Las Vegas. But I like LA. I like LA in this one. I mentioned the awards, and I'll talk about a couple of them real quick, because I think that there's a couple that are going to be really difficult to choose. The Norris Trophy hasn't gotten a lot of attention recently because the Hart Trophy has been such a battle. I mean, you can make an argument for 8, probably even 10 players in terms of the Hart, but you can make an argument for a whole bunch of them on defense as well. So you can pick a winner if you want. I didn't, but I narrowed it down to probably these would be on my ballot if I had one. Because you got to name 5. And I'm putting on John Carlson of the Washington Capitals, 15 goals, 53 assists. John Klingberg of the Dallas Stars. Victor Hedman of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Drew Doughty of the Kings. And here's one that might surprise a few people. PK Subban of the Nashville Predators. I love PK, and I tried to keep all that bias out of it, but 16 goals, 43 assists, and I put him in as one of the nominees based on the amount of ice time he's churned up this year, the number of shifts he takes per game. He's a plus 18, only player to play in all the games for the Nashville Predators this year. So I put him in, not thinking he's going to win. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of push for Alex Pietrangelo, who I didn't even include in my nominee because his team didn't make the playoffs. Is that a thing for defensemen too? Because apparently it is for some in terms of the Hart Trophy. It is so hard to make choices, though, because there are so many good candidates this year. And if you don't put one on your ballot, it's not a wrong answer. It's not a mistake. It's just your eyeball test and look at statistics gives you a different choice. You could go 7, 8, 9, 10, even more in terms of Hart candidates. So here's mine. Claude Giroux, Philadelphia Flyers, because he had such an amazing season and such a bounce-back season, 34 goals, 68 assists. Nathan McKinnon, Avalanche. Everybody was saying, oh, do you count him because he's not in the postseason? Well, the Avs are in the postseason. 34 goals, 68 assists. Taylor Hall, New Jersey Devils, absolutely. Sat out the last game of the year for rest, 39 goals, 54 assists. And there's a couple I'm putting in because there's bias in the East. One, Anze Kopitar of the LA Kings, 35 goals, 57 assists, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Played most of the year as the only top center on that roster. Jeff Carter missed so much time, it was Kopitar et al. At center for the LA Kings. So I put him in. And I don't care that they missed the playoffs. I'm putting Connor McDavid in. No, they didn't make the playoffs, but you know what? Think about how brutal the Oilers would have been without him. And I put him ahead of others because of the supporting cast. That's why I didn't put in Nikita Kucherov or Evgeny Malkin. They've got a huge supporting cast. Connor McDavid has Leon Draisaitl. And I think that makes a difference. So that's why I put him in as my other nominee. But it's tough. You can make a lot of choices and not be wrong in that category. I'm really curious to see what the nominations are because we get to see the ballots this year and what the final totals are on those NHL awards. Oh yeah, I'll do the prediction. I dug out my preseason predictions from from our first programs too. Oh yeah, they're pretty funny. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports are the Twitter and Instagram handles. Coming up on the program, Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy Five. George Richards will join us to talk Blue Jackets as they get set to face the Capitals. And Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com coming up in our next segment. We'll just kind of dance around the NHL and talk about some of the big stories going on. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Being on the World Wide Web is great. Being found is the tricky part. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization is the only way your business can get a leg up on the competition. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. For the necessary tools to make your business stand out in a crowded marketplace, 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition. Join us every Saturday and Sunday live at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app. Before the hour's out, Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy Five, hashtag Fantasy Five, help for you in your playoff hockey pool. And George Richards of the Columbus Post-Dispatch will talk about the Blue Jackets as they get set to line up with the Washington Capitals in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Playoffs open on Wednesday. Got a couple of days to dissect everything, and we'll do a little bit of that with our next guest from CBSSports.com. You should be following him on Twitter at Pete Blackburn. If you're not, you're missing out on a lot of dry, sarcastic comments and giggling to yourself. And Pete joins us now. Pete, I don't know where you want to start. Do you like the East? Do you like the West? You know what? In fact, I'm going to say we're going to start in Colorado because I thought it was wonderful yesterday what the Avs were able to accomplish, and just witnessing the joy that they showed out on the ice and on the bench celebrating, I think made it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things every year is seeing the teams that are able to bounce back from, a pretty tumultuous year the year before, and the Avs are certainly up there. As are the Devils. So we got two really good stories there in terms of teams that have had really great bounce back years and are going to be playing in the postseason.
Now, do you give either one of those teams a big opportunity in their opening round? Because Colorado's got to play Nashville, and the Devils, well, it's going to be Tampa or Boston.
Yeah, so I mean, the Devils have really going to have their work cut out for them, no matter who they get. And I give Colorado probably more of a chance against Nashville than a lot of other people would. I don't necessarily know if I would, put my money where my mouth is there, because, the Predators have a really great team and, they're really deep. But, I think that there's there might be an underestimation of the Avs. I like their team. They've taken some hits late in the season, but I think that it might be a closer series than people expect.
I hope so. I think that would be great. I think that'd be a lot of fun for everyone. And I guess with Nashville and probably a couple of other teams is they have to deal with the mental part of expectation. I mean, Nashville with the trade and bringing in tourists and all that they've done, it's like we're going to the final and we're winning it this year.
Yeah, there's certainly more pressure on Nashville this year than there was last year. Obviously came in as an 8 seed there, and they were the underdogs, and they kind of embraced that. This year, they're President's Trophy winners. They're one of the best teams in the league all year long. Obviously, they're Western Conference reigning champs. And now everybody's kind of looking at them like, okay, it's your time to step up. There's pressure that comes with that. So, we'll see how it affects them. But, it certainly seems like this year they're going in with the expectation to win rather than, being able to surprise people.
Yeah, it's not just we're really happy to be here kind of approach that you see with a couple of teams. So in the East, we mentioned Boston, and they have one game left against the Florida Panthers on Sunday. They'll meet either the New Jersey Devils or the Toronto Maple Leafs. I like the matchup against New Jersey better, but I wonder if we've kind of been, I don't want to say fooled, but we've kind of been misled a little bit this season because everybody was talking Tampa right from the get-go, but Tampa hasn't overwhelmed me the last few weeks of the season, and Boston, despite all the injuries, just keeps winning games.
Yeah, I think I think you're onto something there, but also I think that there's kind of a reset button that gets hit when the playoffs start. I mean, we've seen in years past that there have been teams that have kind of fallen off towards the end and kind of entered the playoffs on a losing streak, and then as soon as the playoffs start, it's a whole new season, and you kind of erase everything that happened before that. So when I look at the roster makeup, I still really like Tampa's roster. I think they've got all the makings of what you want from a cup team or a cup contender. So I'm not quick to write them off, but I do think that the Bruins could do themselves a huge favor by winning today and drawing New Jersey rather than Toronto. I think that, there's a pretty significant step down from Toronto to New Jersey, all due respect, but I would certainly want to face the Devils over Toronto, especially seeing what Toronto did in the playoffs last year when, people kind of underestimated them going up against, an Eastern Conference quote unquote powerhouse in the Capitals.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, actually, the Caps' approach this year, since they've gone through 2 seasons of you're the President's Trophy winners, you're expected to get to the Cup final and really put up a challenge. There wasn't nearly that expectation with the team this year, but, well, lo and behold, look where they are up on top of the division and ready to have another run potentially at a long playoff go. Yeah,
and I think they took a step down in the offseason from, the team that they had last year. I thought last year that was their year. They had, that was my pick going into the playoffs. They looked great all year. And obviously it didn't work out, but, they still have a really good team. And, they're kind of like the anti-Predators this year, if you want to call it that. The Predators have all this pressure because of the success that they had last year. And, the Capitals obviously still have pressure, but the focus isn't on them this year as opposed to years past. The Bruins and Tampa have kind of commanded the spotlight as, the 2 best teams in the East. And I think that as a result of that, the Capitals might have a little less pressure on them. And, I still think that there's a significant chance that they can get it done this year. I'm not writing them off at all. I think that they could quietly, at least get past the second round, which has been their demons for, a decade plus. So don't write them off.
No, absolutely. And I guess I'm not really writing anyone off in the early going. But the other thing that keeps coming back for me too is Pittsburgh's 1-2. And early on in this season, everybody was writing them off. And I said, just relax, they'll be fine. They made some adjustments. They made some changes. Their schedule got more favorable down the stretch. And I can't count out Pittsburgh with the opportunity to win 3 as long as Matt Murray can stay healthy. And I guess that's the only proviso.
Yeah, and I think that there are more question marks this year with the Penguins, and again, I still think that you can't ever write them off with when they have Crosby, when they have Malkin, when they have Kessel, when they have that kind of firepower, and obviously they added some depth at the deadline, especially down the middle, and that's huge when it comes to playoff time. I think that one of the most valuable pieces you can have is a third line center. I'm definitely not writing them off. I just think that this year could be the year that Washington, if they were to meet Pittsburgh in the second round, I would feel pretty comfortable taking Washington. But again, the Penguins have been in this spot before, and they've proven a lot of people wrong. So it's not a team that you can take lightly. That's for sure.
And this is the fun part for the next couple of days leading up to the start of the playoffs, as everybody gets to speculate and wonder and analyze each of the series. Pete Blackburn is with us from CBSSports.com. Follow him on Twitter at Pete Blackburn. Now, the New York Rangers went down yesterday to the Philadelphia Flyers, got the Flyers into the postseason. The remaking, retooling, remodeling, rebuilding, whatever you want to call it, with the Rangers continues, and they'll do it with a new coach. Alain Vigneault is the first NHL coach to be terminated following the conclusion of his season. I think there's going to be more. Do you agree that it was time for Alain Vigneault to move on?
I thought it was time for AV to leave after last year's playoffs. I thought that he fumbled last year's playoffs for the Rangers with the way that he misused their players and their defense. Nick Holden and Mark Stahl were probably like the worst defensive pairing in all of hockey in last year's season. So, I thought that it was time for him to go last year. And prior to this season, I wrote that I thought that he would be the first coach to go mid-season. Obviously, no coaches went mid-season, but he was the first. He's the first one to go. From this year's group, and I absolutely think that it was deserved, and it was probably overdue. It kind of fits though with their plans to do it now, because they're heading in a different direction. Whatever coach comes in will kind of get to be there from the beginning, from the rebuild that they're entering now. So it might work out for them, but yeah, I absolutely think that it was time for him to go.
Okay. Do you agree with me that there will be other coaches that move on and change jobs over the next couple of months?
Yeah, I would imagine so. There's been. I'm glad that the Blackhawks came out and said that they're not going to get rid of Coach Q. I don't think that he deserved it, but I do think that you could see the axe fall in Calgary, in Vancouver, and there's a lot of teams that really maybe Ottawa. There's a lot of teams that could potentially follow suit with New York. There's been a significant number of really bad teams this year, so I would imagine that this is just the first of at least a few.
What do you think about the Detroit Red Wings keeping Ken Holland for 2 more?
I don't really know. I mean, that's a tough spot. I think that Detroit is in maybe the worst spot in the league for future outlook. They've got a lot of money tied up in players that you don't want years and money tied up in. So I don't know if it's necessarily just Ken Holland's fault, or it's kind of a organizational absolute mess over there. So as much as I kind of want to shake my head at that, it's hard to pin it on one person. So I don't know if I can fully criticize that yet. We'll see.
No, I'm with you. It's he can understand drafting and developing, and has done a good job of that at times during his tenure. I just think that they don't accelerate their players fast enough. And I understand the whole let them percolate and over ripen, but with the way the league has evolved, you can't do that anymore. You've got to push them into the NHL faster.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think that. but is it the GM's job to push him into the NHL faster, or is it the development team? Is it the scouts? Is it is it the coaches at the AHL level? There's a lot to go in there, but I do think that Ken Holland hasn't done a great job. So, to say that I would say that the 2-year extension isn't deserved, but I don't know if I can blame everything that's happened there on Ken Holland. But I think that if you're looking to go in a different direction and you look at kind of their organizational outlook, you can probably say that he has put himself in a position to not have that job any longer. So if that's what you want to say, if you want to say that means that he deserves to get fired, then so be it. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, and I guess we'll find out and start to see over the next couple of months what happens with Detroit and whether it was the right choice or not. Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com, at Pete Blackburn is how you follow him on Twitter. Do so. He's a good sense of humor. Thanks for this, Pete. Always enjoyed the time, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Pete Blackburn from CBSSports.com. Yeah, Detroit's a longer fix than 2 years, but this is kind of the stepping stone. I think Jeff Blashill stays too. In fact, I think perhaps Ken Holland extends his contract one more year so that their two contracts will line up, because Jeff Blashill has 1 more year left on his current deal. So if he extends, then they both have the same amount of time there. But I think they've got some talented players in Grand Rapids, but we haven't seen enough of them in the National Hockey League. You can't have guys playing there for 2 and 3 years the way they've done. And to Pete's point about they have too much money tied up in average players, yeah, they have giant money tied up in less than average players. That's going to be the big issue. And moving some of that out, if you can manage that, that will help your team turn around and improve their fortunes in a significant hurry. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Before the top of the hour, we'll squeeze in a visit with George Richards to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets as they get set for their first-round matchup against the Washington Capitals. And also Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, some playoff names in the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 for you to keep in mind. Oh, I'll give you the quick review on my preseason predictions, too. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis continues. Hoping to be joined shortly by George Richards, covering the Columbus Blue Jackets for the Post-Dispatch. And we'll talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, their first-round matchup against the Washington Capitals. I think it could be a good series. I think it could be a really good series. It'll be fun and a little fantasy help for your playoff hockey pools. Maybe you're looking for a little assistance to help bolster your losses from the regular season, or maybe you're looking to keep the good karma going. It'll be the final visit of the regular season for our friend from DobberHockey.com, the managing editor, Stephen Laidlaw, will be here with us before the top of the hour with this week's Fantasy 5. 6 of the 8 playoff matchups are set. The final 2 will be determined a little bit later on Sunday. One makeup game from a snowstorm in January has the Florida Panthers in Boston to take on the Bruins. Florida didn't work out. They had 2 games remaining starting yesterday, but it didn't work out because the Flyers got in, so Florida was eliminated. But the Boston Bruins are playing for first place in their division and their choice of opponent, which means New Jersey or Toronto. If they win, take first place, they get New Jersey. If not, they get the Maple Leafs in round number 1, which I think is a much tougher matchup. The Columbus Blue Jackets will be facing the Washington Capitals. Covering the Jackets for the Post-Dispatch is George Richards. Follow him on Twitter at George Richards, and he joins us now. George, are you welcome, first of all, and are you ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, why not? It should be an exciting time for the Blue Jackets. They've obviously been playing well the past couple weeks and playing their best hockey at the perfect time of the year.
And I think some like it and some don't like it, that it's not the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round. There's the whole, we got to slay the dragon mentality and let's get our revenge this time. But there's also, I think, a group that like, yeah, maybe we'd like somebody else for a change.
Yeah, something different, I guess. But playing Washington isn't all that different. Only they just haven't, met this team in the postseason. But it's obviously a Metropolitan Division opponent, a team that they've played a lot, and kind of like the Penguins, a team that has had a lot of success against the Blue Jackets in recent years. They've won 3 of 4 against Columbus. The last meeting, the Blue Jackets on the trade deadline night had their way with the Capitals, but in previous times they've rarely come out on top. But this Columbus team, they feel like they're a different bunch, and they really do feel like with the playoffs, it's a reset and a whole new start for them. So it should be a good series.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be fun to watch for both teams. I think it has the potential to go long. I think there could be some really close games involved, and maybe because there are a few questions about the Washington Capitals and who's going to play in goal, maybe we lean to the Blue Jackets having an advantage with Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah, and there's so much pressure on Washington. All the talk about the window for them. But they're still a very good team. I mean, they've won this division 3 years in a row. We see how tough the Metro is, how competitive it is, and Washington just year after year comes out on top of this bunch. And I think there's definitely a question mark in goal. I think there's pressure on Washington, but there's still a whole boatload of talent over there, and this is going to be fun. But yeah, the goalie situation. Bob's got questions about his postseason. Now, whether that's a Pittsburgh question or a postseason question, we're going to find out, I think.
Yeah, I think you might be right. The other thing with Columbus too, and you mentioned that they had the victory against the Washington Capitals on trade deadline night. It's a team that seemed to sort of settle into place after the trade deadline. They didn't make big acquisitions, but they made some very astute acquisitions, bringing in players like Thomas Vanek and Ian Cole that just really helped fill out their lineup and give them a little more depth.
I think that Jarmo did a terrific job at the trade deadline. I mean, this was a team that was in flux, a team that had had no consistency throughout the year. They'd win 2, lose 3, win. They were just a team you didn't know where they were going. They didn't look like a playoff team. They were out of a playoff spot. And he made 3 pretty good little moves. I mean, and really didn't give up a whole lot, if anything. Some draft picks, maybe a prospect here or there. But yeah, like you said, Mark Letestu comes in, Ian Cole. turned out to be a terrific pickup. Thomas Vanek, after a slow start, and when I say slow, I'm talking about 2-3 games, and he's picked it up ever since. I think those were terrific moves. I said it at the time that the Blue Jackets improved themselves dramatically, only because all of a sudden John Tortorella had all these different options. He's been able to sit defensemen because they've got so many now. You also had Ryan Murray coming back off injury about that time. So this is while the names are the same, this seems like a different team ever since the trade deadline. And you look at the record, it kind of bears that out. This is a team that couldn't put anything together, and all of a sudden wins 10 in a row. And they've won 15 out of 17, 15 out of 18 before, losing last night in Nashville. So they've really turned things around.
Yeah, and I think that also helped to give John Tortorella some other options, and it also helped shoulder the burden for players like Pierre-Luc Dubois, who early on in the season seemed to be struggling a little bit, but his maturity has improved, I think, and his play has certainly improved in the second half. Yeah,
absolutely. I think I don't think he gets a whole lot of love around the league. People may not know who he is, but he's for a 19-year-old to be centering the top line. And it has done so for the second half of the season. Torch throws him out in every single situation. The kid shows no fear. And the old cliche is, he's not a rookie anymore. He played all 82 games for the Blue Jackets this season. And he was a guy that coming into training camp, they didn't really know what his role was going to be, even if it would be in Columbus. I think he was one of the guys coming into camp that you looked at as a bubble guy. And then it was a fourth line winger guy. And a couple months later, he's the top line center guy. And he's relished that role. He's accepted it and run with it. And I think that Pierre-Luc Dubois, the season that he has had has been a great boon to the Blue Jackets, because if you remember early in the year, there were a lot of veteran guys that they were counting on who were having extremely down years. And he was a bright spot in that, because he was the guy that they didn't expect anything out of, that was kind of carrying the load for him. And that allowed some of the veteran guys, Cam Atkinson, Boone Jenner, others, to kind of catch up and finish up strong.
Yeah, George Richards covers the Blue Jackets for the Columbus Post-Dispatch. At George Richards is how you follow him on Twitter. Jackets and Caps in the opening round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Josh Anderson is another player who had a little difficulty at the beginning. He was injured for a while, but he too has, in the second half of the year, really started to show and develop what everyone's kind of expecting from him now.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see where Torch plays, Josh. He's been out for about the past month with an injury, and he's played the last 2 games, in varying roles. Last night, he got a lot more minutes than he did the previous night against Pittsburgh. I think they're, John kind of knows what he's got lineup wise, but I think Josh Anderson was leading the team in goals when he went out with injury, and the team kind of took off when he wasn't in the lineup. And I'm not saying anything about that. It was just, maybe just happenstance. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see where they play Josh, what role he plays. I think he plays an extremely important role for the Blue Jackets. He's a big, physical power forward with great hands, a terrific shot, but he can also play a little bit of a physical game. I think we saw he had success on the top line with Panarin for a little bit, and then that kind of went away, and they put him back down on a third line, kind of where he could use his body a little more, where he went back to the style of hockey that he was playing last year. And I think he really seems to enjoy that physical play, getting in front, creating screens, doing a lot of stuff. Alexander Wenberg is another guy who they found that's been able to use his size to get in front of the goalie and create some havoc down low. So as far as Josh Anderson goes, we know he's got the skill. You see the size. When he uses it, he's a very dangerous player.
Yeah, the other player that I have to talk about a little bit because of the growth that we continue to see, and I'm not sure that he's even at his peak yet, which is good news for the Blue Jackets, is Seth Jones on defense. You see him wearing an A at times on his jersey now. He seems to be taking more control when he's out on the ice. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but he looks like he's a little bigger this year than he was in the past.
Yeah, I mean he's still a young player. I don't think you can say enough about the job that Seth Jones has done this year. John Tortorella brought it up a few months ago that that Seth Jones needs to be in the Norris conversation, and I think that is kind of shown a light on how good Seth Jones is, because I don't think that was just a coach trying to blow some smoke. I think he's absolutely right. Seth Jones is one of the top defensemen in this league. He is in many nights when we talk about the success that the Blue Jackets have had over the past 2 months. A lot of games you've seen Seth Jones just kind of put this team on his back. I mean, he does so many things right. He doesn't make mistakes. When he does make a mistake, he doesn't let it carry over. It's just forgotten. He just continues to do the small things, the big things. I've really enjoyed watching Seth Jones this year because he's the consummate professional. We all know about his skill. This was a guy that came into that draft, the #1 rated North American skater, and everybody thought he was going to go #1. So I think Seth Jones has been on people's radar for a long time. But he is quickly, we know how hard it is for young defensemen to get a foothold in this league. But I think Seth Jones definitely he's one of the elite defensemen in this league.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch. George Richards covering the Columbus Blue Jackets, getting set to open up the first round of the playoffs against the Washington Capitals. Follow him on Twitter at George Richards. Always good to talk to you, George. I enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you sometime soon.
That sounds good to me. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, George Richards, covering the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is going to be a good series. There's a few questions on both sides. Could go either. This I don't know, because Washington finished up on the top of the division. If Columbus wins, is it an upset? I don't know, but it's going to be fun and it's going to be exciting to watch. I'm looking forward to this one. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email in our final segment. Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, final Fantasy 5 for the season. Some tips for your playoff hockey pool, all coming up. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis Sunday edition continues up to the top of the hour. Just one game remaining on the NHL regular season schedule. It'll be the Boston Bruins hosting the Florida Panthers on Sunday evening. Then everybody catches their breath for a couple of days, and away we go. We are into the Stanley Cup playoffs. 2 months of drama, 2 months of fun and excitement. We're looking forward to it. It should be fun. A little help for you just before the top of the hour with this week's Fantasy 5. Hashtag Fantasy 5. Our man Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5 to help you with your NHL playoff pools. Try to bounce back after a tough regular season, maybe. Oh, like my regular season predictions. Oh, yeah. So I went back and I kept them at the start of the year. Everybody makes the obligatory predictions of who's going to get into the playoffs, who's not going to get into the playoffs. And so, okay, fine. Went through. Here they are. Ready? Oh, yeah. Really embarrassing. Playoff teams in the East: Tampa Bay, Toronto, Montreal, Washington, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Carolina, New York Rangers. Tampa, Pittsburgh winning divisions. Playoffs in the West: Anaheim, Edmonton, Calgary, San Jose, Minnesota, Nashville, Chicago, Dallas. Well, my Stanley Cup matchup still has the opportunity to play out because I had Tampa and Anaheim. But let's just say preseason predictions, they're like bums. Everybody has one. Everybody's got to make one. It's not really a big deal. I don't put a lot of stock in them. But, you know, hey, it's a little bit of fun every now and again. So that's what we did. As promised, to help for your playoff hockey pools, he is the managing editor of DobberHockey.com. He's been great all season long. We love having him on in this regular segment. His information is invaluable, and we thank him for his generous giving of time all season. Follow him on Twitter at Steve Laidlaw. And Steve joins us now. Steve, are you all set for your playoff hockey pool? Oh, wait a minute. Is the guide ready and out from DobberHockey.com to get people set for the playoffs?
Yeah, absolutely. Our interactive guide is ready to rock. It's available. The setup's pretty simple. I mean, we give you our predictions for, you know, who's gonna go the distance, win the Stanley Cup, and who the best point producers are going to be or who the best point producers are going to be. However, you know, if you think you're smarter than us and you've got a team that you want to ride, then the tool allows you to say, you know, maybe you got the Penguins going all the way to the Cup again. So and you know, that way you've got them going an extra round. It'll shuffle the numbers around, and it'll tell you who the best point producers are going to be, depending on, you know, whatever playoff matchups you happen to choose.
So just go to DobberHockey.com. You can get all the information. You can all get signed up, and you can get all this great information at a very low price from Steve and his staff that has been working tirelessly to put it together. Now, here's the tease, the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 for the final time to get you set for the playoffs. Jakob Silfverberg is number 1 on your list this week. Why do you like Silfverberg?
Every single year he keeps producing in the playoffs. Playoff Silfverberg is, you know, he's maybe the 9th wonder of the world. Every year he comes in around point per game. You know, the Ducks, they had a slow start with all those injuries to start the year, but they're coming on strong in the second half. You got to figure that they'll be pretty frisky come playoff team. Proven veteran squad there. Went to the conference finals last year.
And you want teams that are going deep in the playoffs to have success in your playoff pool. And name number 2 comes from the Boston Bruins. That would be Jake DeBrusk. I like the season he's had.
Yeah, he's been a highly efficient scorer at 5-on-5. You know, he's not on the top power play unit, but that second power play unit's got quite a bit of juice as well. And just in general, you know, you're not seeing as many power plays during the playoffs. The whistles tighten up. So being able to score at 5-on-5s, you know, it's very important. And that second line with Krejci and Nash, if he returns, and DeBrusk is going to be a good line. You know, a lot of people are going to be focused on the big guns for Boston, but certainly that second line is capable of having some elite scorers.
Name number 3 on Stephen Laidlaw's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 for your playoff hockey pool and to keep looking for in your draft. Cam Atkinson of the Columbus Blue Jackets. He has been trending upward this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever since returning from injury mid-season, he's been doing really well. But he's got 25 points in the last 20 games. Columbus's power play, dreadful all year, is taken off in the final quarter of the season. This is a team that's really trending up. You know, they've got a playoff matchup against the Washington Capitals, and we all know their playoff woes. So, you know, maybe they can sneak through a few rounds as an underdog and really make some noise. And that top line with Panarin, Dubois, and Atkinson's been really good.
Name number 4 from Steve Laidlaw is Erik Haula. How come he finds his way onto your final Fantasy 5?
Well, for years in Minnesota, he's kind of been a depth guy, but he's always managed to produce about a point every other game during the playoffs for them. And now he's in a bigger role on the Vegas Golden Knights. You got to figure that a lot of teams are going to be focusing on stopping that top line with Marchessault, Carlson, and Smith. So that second line with Neal, Perron, and Haula is going to have maybe some easier matchups, especially if they're looking at a matchup against the Kings, who are pretty top-heavy. Maybe that second line is actually worth more to you.
And the final member of the final Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, is Craig Smith of the Nashville Predators. Tell us why you like Craig Smith.
Well, again, everyone's going to be loading up on that top line for Nashville. So getting the guy off the second line with Turris and Fiala, a line that's been very good throughout the year. Smith, he had a couple of down years, but he rebounded strong, and he's also on their top power play unit, so he's going to be an option available to get you some exposure to Nashville's best players while not necessarily being as high on the radar.
Stephen Laidlaw is the managing editor of DobberHockey.com. with the Fantasy 5. Hashtag Fantasy 5 at Steve Laidlaw is how you follow him on Twitter. Steve, it has been a pleasure all season long to use your phrase. You have shot the crap out of the puck with great info all season long. It's great to have you. And I know I get asked about it and people say that's a great segment and we really appreciate it. So thank you for your time. And again, for more info, go to DobberHockey.com. Appreciate it. Have a great season, Steve.
Absolutely. Enjoy your summer, Todd, and take care, everyone. Best of luck.
Stephen Laidlaw, managing editor of DobberHockey.com. Quickly again, whipping through the Fantasy 5. It is Jakob Silverberg of the Anaheim Ducks, Jake DeBrusk of the Boston Bruins, Cam Atkinson of the Blue Jackets, Erik Haula of the Vegas Golden Knights, and Craig Smith of the Nashville Predators. Looking forward to it. Just one game on the schedule on Sunday, as mentioned. It's the Bruins hosting the Panthers. See if Boston can find their way up to the top of the division. So with great matchups to highlight, we say congratulations and well done to some that we know are not coming back to provide us with great hockey next season. A lot of attention on the Sedin twins, and rightfully so. Daniel and Henrik, great career, but there's also a lot of other players who won't be returning next season. Patrick Sharp of the Chicago Blackhawks, who said goodbye. Radim Verbata of the Florida Panthers. Looks like Josh Georges is going to step away from the Buffalo Sabres as well. These and other players have given us so much of their lives to hockey and to the National Hockey League. We thank them, and all the others who won't be returning back in the fall again. And now we look ahead. The next 2 months, there's going to be great stories of skill and determination. We're going to be privileged to watch on a nightly basis. There's going to be unlikely heroes. There's going to be dramatic upsets. No doubt there will be a controversy or two along the way. That's just part of what makes up the Stanley Cup playoffs. So special, so much fun. And after a couple of days to catch our breath, we'll dive in starting on Wednesday. We look forward to opening night of the playoffs and all the joy and all the ups and downs that it will provide over the next couple of months. Let the games begin. Thanks to Steve Laidlaw, to George Richards, to Pete Blackburn, to Scott Billeck, and to Matthew DeFranks, all for joining us on the program. Humboldt, Saskatchewan, we are thinking about you and sending you all of our love and support as we wrap up this edition. We'll be back with our little Saturday podcast on Wednesday. And then, of course, our shows again next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Watch a little golf, enjoy a couple of days off, and get set for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Back again with you next Saturday and Sunday.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. you get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 D's. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.